We can't talk about Jack and Jill.
Oh, I was a I was a debutante.
I was a
I
debutante
know
as
several people
well.
who were.
I was a debutante. Not the Jack and Jill, but I was a debutante and I was gorgeous. Oh, never mind.
I still have that dress. I don't know
I do
why, but
too.
I do too. And I
It's
just saw a
gorgeous.
post of people asking for dresses. So I'm like, they need to take that dress and a couple other dresses. I don't know if my dresses are outdated though, because that's like million years times 90. Good evening. Good evening. If you catch us on the replay, you catch us coming into the camera, you caught us into dialogue about just different things related to tonight's conversation. So, we thank you. You can definitely give us the comments on the hashtag replay, what you thought about that part of the dialogue, because some people are debutantes, even if, they don't fit the mold that people think. Anywho, that's like a segue into our conversation. But before we jump that far, Doc, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Preparing for
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right though. I
Are
don't have
you
a whole. Go ahead.
are you instrumental in the process?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. More
It,
than I care to be, but it is what it is.
right.
You
Right.
gotta do what you gotta do for the people that you love.
True.
Yeah.
True. And it's never uncomfortable. There's no script.
Mm-hmm.
Grief is different for everybody. Um,
Mm-hmm. For
as I currently
sure.
was reminded this week, it's
Mm-hmm.
different for everybody.
Yes, yes. So, a lot of times it doesn't even hit you until something triggers,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm preparing.
Okay.
Yeah, preparing.
Understood. Understood. It makes me think of something, but I'll share that after Camp shares. How are you doing, Camp?
I'm good. I'm just tired.
How's the baby? The incoming baby?
Oh, good. Everybody's good. Everybody's cool.
No, I meant the incoming one, the one that's dancing all night and
Good.
keeping you up.
Still doing
Okay. One of the things I thought about, and I know this is not necessarily our topic, but the grief. Now saying grief is different. I was actually asked to officiate a service. I don't know, officiate, coordinate, because they wanted the mental health aspect to be brought to light and for people
Hmm.
to know the process of grief and what it looks like, understanding the anxiety part of it, um, and that it's okay to not be okay,
Mm-hmm.
which was an interesting experience because there were different faith backgrounds in the audience, but
Mm-hmm.
it still was, I think it was rewarding, because it just puts mental health at the forefront, and that, these are the resources for you to figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no clock. It's no
Right.
clock.
That's right.
It's no clock. Which that's what, a lot of people are trying to put a clock on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard someone say about someone else, they're still grieving.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
still crying about that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
it takes as long as it takes.
And that's the part that people need to hear over and all.
Hey,
Hey,
Neil.
Ruth. Is that it takes how long it takes, because I realize one of the things that I do regarding grief is that I try to forget the dates of my parents transitioning. However, once I realize them, then it's like, okay, how am I feeling? And with each parent, it's a little different. But March is the month for my father, and I was all the way team daddy's girl. Daddy's girl. I mean, wasn't that right when my mom left, but whew, I don't know. I was ready to crawl in a cocoon. Anywho,
Well, when you talk about grief, I think I grieve more in the present. When I mean present, I mean current, like while people are how you say it, alive, or just like the right now, I think I tend to agree with like the relationships are things that should have been, they could have been, but they are not. But I know what it is, not on my part, just because, just like a family, I love for my kids and my family to know who family is on either side, my husband's side or my side. So I think um, I grieve a little bit, but I don't grieve as much as some people going because I feel like I give people their flowers while they're here. I really hone in on that. So, so
That
yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense. I can say that I do the same, but then the fact that I work in trauma and grief, I can say that I'm a different clinician and a different person now, moving forward. That, I don't think anybody really understands what it means to be parentless, like until they experience it. So, and then there's other ways of grief too, because grieve of losing a job, grieving of losing a house. Like it's a lot of ways that grief shows up in our life every day. And we kind of just sweep it under the rug and say it's going to go away. And that's not always the case. That's not always the case. So our conversation for this evening is a delicate one. But it is a kind of a necessary one. Is Women's History Month. But of course, what it is not necessarily just impacted by women. And that is, we want to talk about relationships, but relationships and colorism. Like, how does colorism impact your relationship? How does it impact promotions? How does it impact your interest in significant others? Yeah, like your hair, like it's so many different layers to what colorism is and what it is not. Um, so that's the conversation topic for this evening.
Hey, when I think about it, the first thing that always comes to my mind is how it's been used to divide,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and on things so silly, like you mentioned hair. Why is that even a thing? You know, it has it has really been a way to divide the black community. You know, where I'll say, to the point where if you wear your hair a certain way, you must be a certain person.
It shapes and characterizes
Yes,
how you're received. Yes.
exactly. And the division comes in when you make it seem like you're more of something or better at something because you've decided to wear your hair a certain way. And not realizing that this is just another way to divide.
And like, even how it's so much that just came to my mind when you said that. Even how and Camp, I know you were instrumental in the chapter that I wrote in this book, You Can't Tell Me Nothing, a Black woman and their hair journey. But like, even how if you have long hair, if you perm your hair, if you wear a natural style, if you wear a protective style, like all of that is very divisive and very separating of like who it is, who we are. I have a client who loves her braids, love her crochet, but she's about to get her doctorate degree. And the conversation and processing in her therapy that she has to go get a perm or get a wig just to go to the interview and to start her job. Like, so she's getting prepared for trying to find a hairdresser for that. And I'm like trying to peel that back. Like, no, that's not, but she feels like it is. It's a part of the costume. That's what I call it.
Yes,
Well, you don't have to do that. I think that's over. I feel like some people may feel like they have to do that, but I think that's overextending yourself. That's in my head. I don't know. If they want you, they want you. The way I look at it, if it's for you, it's for you. No matter how your hair is, as long as it's presentable.
Right, but some people's definition of presentable is not the definition of of I want to say of everyone, but if we were to pare it down, it's not the definition for corporate America in all settings.
Even if you say as long as it's neat,
Right.
it's not the
Neat is
same.
different. I know. Neat is
Yeah.
everything is so like yes,
Yeah.
categorized and so different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how can I say this? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. With hairstyles, I think it was has it been 12 years? At some point, I would straighten my hair. When you got to use a pressing comb, when you got to get a relaxer, use a pressing comb, a hot comb, and a flat iron. At that point, why do you need to do all that? That was me when my hair was a little. It was different. The texture was different.
Mm.
But my hair could take all these chemicals, all this stuff. It was strong, but why? And it was still thick and healthy. But why have to do all that? And it got to a point where probably 12 or 13 years ago, I said, there's no incentive for me to wear my hair straight. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to wear my hair straight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why do I need to wear it curly? Why do I need to look like anything but how
Mm-hmm.
I want to look?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when people kept asking me, "Oh, you used to have locks, or why you wear it natural?" I was just like, white people used to ask me that, and black people, and I used to be like, "What incentive? Are you paying me more money because I have straight hair?
Mm.
Are you providing more benefits because I have short temper curls? What are you doing extra?" So if you're not doing anything extra and you want me to look certain, are you contributing to my wardrobe?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I don't care if you was a peer or a supervisor. I'm not doing nothing extra. I'm gonna look neat and presentable and be nice for work
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
for my field. Otherwise, get out of my face. And
And
I said that to people.
I could believe it. And like thinking about like I used to have a not intentionally, but I'm just thinking about one work situation where one of the colleagues, she was all the way natural and hair, she would do the afros and stuff like that. That was her style.
Mhm.
I didn't question her style. I didn't do anything. But what I did do is I celebrated Creamy Crack Day because when I was going to get my perm and I called it Creamy Crack, that was a celebration because not that I was going to assimilate and look like anyone because my hair wasn't impacted by chemicals. Like it was
Mm.
healthy
Mm.
in the perm life. And it's another story for why I decided to do protected hairstyles. But like she would argue me the whole like say like Friday is the appointment. So like Wednesday, Thursday, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get my creamy crack. And sometimes I probably said it just to get on her nerves. And she would really want to go and debate back and forth around my decision around my crown.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it was an ease. It was helped me with the ease of everything. Like I could do my hair, when I couldn't do my hair was because it was time for touch-up time. So
Mhm.
it's like, but that inferred difference, that inferred separation, that inferred judgment around how I chose to represent my crown. Like, back in those days, I was a little passive aggressive, so I didn't really care. I just like to, push her buttons, but it still was a conversation I think that was unnecessary and also shapes how I interact with people and hair conversations.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because my hair is nice and long like Doc's.
And I think that's the thing. Like, I keep getting asked, "Is that all your hair? Do you have extensions?" I'm like,
Mhm.
"No, I don't."
Mm-hmm.
How
Story
did
of
you?
my life.
How did you get to be like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Water. Drink water.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know black people hair grows like that.
Mhm.
And
So
even from melanated people. Oh, I didn't know our hair could do that.
Mhm.
Well,
mhm.
today.
So where does that conversation come from though? Like as far as the texture of our hair, I know the 4C conversation would just be too overwhelming for me.
I
Like
have
I
a problem
don't
with that conversation.
yeah, I don't like that conversation, but that's just me. Um like where does this conversation like come from that the hair has to have a certain look? Hello, beautiful
Hey,
villagers.
abuser.
I'm gonna guess that that's
Hmm.
Jaja just based on the greeting, but you need to let StreamYard let us know who you are.
I would say, to be honest, I would say it comes from us being colonized. Or I also think it comes from, forgive me if people don't like my conversation, but like even with slavery, like the whole house slaves, field slaves, depending on if a colonizer raped one of your ancestors and you have white in your family or mixed, or you have some type of Native Americans and black people had slaves as well, but it's not to the extent of colonizers having slaves at the time. So that whole thing, separation, then separation of families breaking up. I just think it's more of just the propaganda from then until now, and then us having to look so presentable so colonizers or white people would accept us. Like even in the civil rights periods, or even now. Oh, because I have an accent, but when people hear my kids, oh, they don't sound like you. I said they not. I'm from down south. They're from up north. But they, what's what I'm looking for?
And then Nicholas is from Britain.
Right. So not civilized is not the word. Oh, I used to hear this all the time growing up. You speak so proper.
Right.
You so civilized. You're so uniformed. You're not. Oh, here's the key. Oh, you're not like the others. What others? Who are you talking about? Because I think when people look at me, my family is a melting pot. So, relative.
You want to describe what the melting pot is in case?
Oh, so down south, my family, my mom's side is Creole. So we're a mixture of like Spanish, French, black, white, Mexican, a little bit of everything. And it's from, Louisiana Creole. Hey, Daryl. So I think I get questions like, are you from Haiti? I get questions like, were you adopted? Like, it's just crazy questions. So I think that's where, and then people will touch your hair. I didn't know your hair could do this. Excuse me, move your hands before I break them. So I think it's more so people don't know. So if you're indignant or just ignorant to the fact you don't know, you can't really, I'm not saying you can't hold that against people, but people just need to be educated.
So, but like why is it that they don't know? Because if we go back to, like we said, the beginning of it is possibly with the colonization of who we are. If we are born with certain textures of
Sunny.
Hey, Sunny.
Hey, Sunny.
You know what?
My question is we know how it started. My question is why do we let it
still
continue?
Right?
I think it still exists because people still feed their kids or their family or generations propaganda, even if I may know different, but if it's being fed to me every day and I'm just hearing it and seeing it, even if I feel different, it's like the pressure. So I think it still exists. It's still,
And so,
and it's a way to feel better than.
Where are we talking about?
Right, we are. Some people made to feel better than others based on your skin tone or how your hair is curly.
Where are we talking about? Where are we talking about? What areas? This colorism are we talking about in general?
We're talking about the. Oh, you're talking about location.
Yeah, like where are we speaking about it from? Are we talking about it from an American point of view? Are we thinking outside? I need to.
You always gotta love Daryl's perspective because either it's stats or it's the zip code. He brings it in to ensuring that we know the perspectives. Because Daryl, you bring up a great point that I actually said to Camp right before we came on live. I was like, okay, so Camp, you could kind of represent the down south conversation different than the Northerners conversation. So we had not defined that as of yet, Daryl. So you could shape us if necessary, as we already know that you will.
No, well, I was talking about in reference to the hair, especially maybe here, touching the hair and things of that nature, because again, the entitlement that some people have, that they feel like they can. This is different. And I can just touch you, right? Because you don't just touch people normally. That's just not something you do. But if you're so entitled and you feel like someone maybe is less than, then it's okay to touch that dog, that monkey, that person that is less than us. So that's the mindset I believe that some people have when they're like, "Oh, look at this thing that's so different, but like me. But let me touch this Brillo type hair or hair that's like Cam said that is straight like mine, or it can get curly. I can do so many things. I'm so I'm also in all of this, but it's not a person. It's something I can just touch and almost some
like any
experimentation.
other object.
Like any other object, like it's not attached to a person. This is your hair your crown is attached to you as the human person. So it's like you're violating my personal space.
Yeah. Well, I would say when you say location, I've had more colorism or racism, however you want to put it, or just more people touching my hair up north than down south. Like, people don't respect your space. Just because we work together don't mean I know you.
Right.
I know you probably professionally, but not personally. So a couple of people have got elbowed up in the chin because the reflex. Like, anybody touch you, be like, hold on, like. And I was like, I'm sorry, but you have to ask first. You just can't touch my hair.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think you need to learn. Don't even ask. Like, why are you asking to touch me?
True.
It shouldn't be something
like
ask.
But like I was sharing a few moments ago in regards to like, when I would indulge, I mean, even in the protective hairstyles, but definitely when I had my creamy crack life going on, people wanted to touch your hair. Is it your hair? Like, let me see what that feels like. No, let's not. I'm not a spectacle.
Right. So I'm like, where else would that work? If I'm like, ooh, look at them breasts. Can I touch them? That would be inappropriate.
That would be sexual harassment.
Right. There's nowhere else you can ask to touch somebody that it's okay. So why is you touching my hair okay or being allowed? It shouldn't even be a thing, right? It shouldn't be a thing. No, I find it highly disrespectful for you to want to touch my hair, right? It's like, hey, look at that ass. Can I touch it? No, like, what are you talking about? So I think we need to get away from that. Asking these crazy questions of people, because especially because it doesn't happen the reverse way, not that I've ever seen. I haven't seen it another way. Like, let me touch the stringy stuff. Let me touch this. It doesn't go both ways. So I would say it's really an issue, and to me it's an entitlement that people feel they have.
So, how can we correct the entitlement or the lack of being aware or the education that's needed regarding melanated people and their hair? Like,
well, first
because even in our Black and brown communities, like, there's a disparity that some of our brown sisters and brothers have the same level of texture of hair as us. And when I say brown, I'm not just speaking of the Latinas. I'm also speaking of our brown brothers and sisters in the Middle Eastern family as well, because they're Black.
Don't tell them that too much. They don't believe that.
All they gotta do is go do their own history. They Black with a full cup of entitlement.
They are Black.
Right.
So, like, how would we even begin to re-educate? Is that part of CRT?
We have to educate ourselves first, because what happens a lot of times is that people touch us and we don't say anything. We kind of cower under the pressure, and we let them touch it, and we're uncomfortable. Like, oh no, it's mine, or whatever we're saying. But we're actually allowing them to keep doing it. To Camp's defense, like Camp said, when you put that elbow, like, what are you doing? It's only too many elbows you'll get before you learn that's not okay. Right? So we got to have our voice and use it, and not be afraid to offend someone who's offending us. Right. To start.
Yeah.
But even with the elbow, that means that just tells them to ask. That doesn't stop them from asking or having inquiring, or how did you get your hair to look like that? Like, yeah.
That's stage one, Mary. That's stage one.
Okay, my bad.
When the hand comes in, you gotta, hey, don't do that.
Right.
Don't ask, then maybe you can have the conversation with someone. But I mean, it has to be a uniform front, because just because you do it, the next person might not, right? So
correct.
So they already have the entitlement. One person is not really might not change the course of their actions. It has to be multiple people.
It'll be about that person. Like, something's wrong with that person.
Right. They're aggressive. Now they're aggressive, or this is what they perceive us to be anyway, right? It was only their hair I wanted to touch. Why are they so rude?
Yes.
Whoever they are, never seem who never seem to understand that that's a violation of personal space. And I guess because our voice doesn't matter, it does matter in certain circumstances, but it has limitations in other spaces. And so it's like they try to diminish or take it away as much as possible.
So, but I and I don't know the answer to this question. We'll say with other races, other ethnicities, people, and things of that nature.
With the woolen hair,
you know, what I mean,
I'm
whatever,
sorry,
whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, are they touching each other's hair? Is that something they normally do? Is that something that people do? I don't know it to be so. I haven't really seen it. You know, only been on receiving end, but I don't know if that when they're amongst themselves, they're like, "Hey, let me touch your hair, girl. Oh, it smells good." Like, is that a thing? Is that a thing for some people?
I don't know about the touching, but I would bet anything that they don't ask each other if it's real, if it's theirs, how they get it to grow.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think they ask those questions because it's expected to be that way.
Which is crazy because everybody uses. I'm sorry, everybody uses some implants and weaves and things of that nature. So it's so crazy that they just attribute that to us. They attribute it. It's like us thing, but your girlfriend has extensions in right now, girl. That's not her hair. You may not, and just because you believe it to be hers or believe it that this is how it should be, they look past it and may not know those are extensions or clip-ins or whatever the case may be.
I mean, I think I tend to, when people ask me do I have extensions and if they're from other ethnicities, I was like, oh, are those is that a fusion weave? Are those clip-in tracks? Oh, because I started asking questions. They was like, girl, how you know? I said I didn't. I just thought I asked you questions because you started asking me questions.
Right.
And
did anyone ever get offended?
I'm
sorry, Camp. Did anyone ever get offended when you asked those questions?
They were not offended. They were surprised that I knew
their secret.
They were surprised that I knew certain things. Sorry.
Okay.
Charlotte.
Okay. Gotcha.
No, I can't. Why are you talking? I can't eat your pizza.
He said, "Why are you talking?"
I have celiac.
Oh, why are you talking? You ain't allowed to talk.
Right. So, and that's actually what I was getting ready to state right before you said it. I think Daryl, you just said it, that weaves are not weaves, toupees. We don't wear toupees, but like hair installments and all of that was not created by Black and melanated families or melanated individuals. Right. It was created for hair loss in cultures that don't look like us. So I never understood the fascination around if you guys are doing it, why can't we also do it too? Now we may spend more than you do, and then maybe we don't, because I don't know how much the investment is for the different hair contraptions that they get. And there's one place that I passed on Germantown Avenue that had on the banner hair installment. And I was like, what is a hair installment? Right? I really want to call and ask, but I want to also be sensitive because there's different medical issues that create hair issues. I always go politically correct. I don't know why, but it was just like the word just kind of took me off guard. Because they weren't necessarily just talking about like a crochet installment or a sew-in installment. It seemed like it was something more intense the way it was lined up on the sign with the services that they provide. Okay.
So I think it's very interesting. I think because some people feel like it's normal for some and not normal for others. Women of color are not supposed to have long hair. When you're supposed to be in the bush, you don't have long hair, right? They
and really especially certain complexions.
Right.
Yeah.
The complexion is a whole nother aspect of the whole colorism. Okay, this is a long. It took out Daryl and Camp on the bottom, so I'll read it just because it's a very big issue on the continent. For example, vast majority of Egyptians or folks from Algeria or Morocco consider themselves better than us from the dark skin sides of Africa, North Africa versus West Africa. Hair texture is similar to European as opposed to us darker skinned Africans with our natural rough hair texture. So that goes into you, Daryl, saying what region are we speaking of? Like we in our own culture create the separation for whatever reason. I mean, beyond the term that we say who's in the house and who's in the field, it's deeper than that. It's like it just seems so deeper than that. Yes.
I think about Spike Lee School Days. It's one of my favorite movies. But they had a lot of colorism in it, especially with the hair.
Yes, Mary, you got the clips
with the two sororities, and then
yes,
and just saying like, just reminds me of just Jasmine guy. It's just going like the different characters going back and forth, and they were saying like they had the brown paper bag. Your darker than this, your hair is snappy, like keywords. It was like, oh, you have to put weave in your hair, it can't be this long, but it was going back and forth. And it just shows you how even like that was the,
that's the good and bad hair scene.
Good, bad hair.
Good and hair.
Even at like in the movie,
here,
or whatever.
Yeah, here definitely.
Conversation.
Colorism has really shaped the minds of us here, right? Because we're always chasing others. We're chasing what we're not. We're chasing the master, the overseer. We want to look like them, and we want to look like them with hair like them. We want the style like them. So here, a lot of our colorism is based off of colonization, right? We want to. We feel like we made it when we look more like
Sonny.
them. So this is definitely that black woman can't grow. Right,
definitely.
Right. So again, and long hair, straight hair was definitely seen to be better than, right? That when we start getting the conks and the perms and things of that nature, right? You wanted your hair bone straight, straight. Even growing up, I remember thinking,
Sorry.
Whoa. Oh, that was you.
That was me. Yeah, I was trying to get the video to be able to try and pull it up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
What's the big thing? What happened to Daryl?
The hair being able to grow and not be able to grow. So I think I started when I moved up north. My hair was always long, but I used to cut my hair all the time. It just grew right back. So even with locks or not locks, I used to do this on purpose. Be at the table and be like this. But my hair was in a ponytail, like my locks or just my regular hair. I used to take it down and kind of, how a lot of people do, kind of like, and just do like this, and then and then just to see the reaction. And people wouldn't like that because you're doing it to throw your hair in my face. So I would do it too. Like I got long hair just like you. I don't look anything like you.
And I don't even think do you think that they realize that that's what they're doing, that it's offensive to be doing that, or they just culturally just do that? Like
some of them can be culturally insensitive, but they're very aware.
I think it's both, Mary. I think it's both. I think they do it so much, their entitlement that is throwing that. So from my understanding, a woman's hair is everything. So when you throw that around, you're saying something when you throw that around. And even if you inadvertently are doing it or you're constantly doing it, you're doing something. You're sending a message, right? And that's what it's about. Because hair is your lion's mane. Sometimes, like, take that. Look at my house clothes. Look how slow it down.
Or even like I can't think of is it Snow White or Cinderella? One of them had the long braid that went down the window, and then
Rapunzel.
Yeah.
It goes back. She was throwing it, and then she was using it as an escape route, or to get her booty call. Either or.
Right.
I could try showing the video.
What the videos now?
Yes.
Why not?
How long is the video?
It's not long, Daryl.
Yeah, put that in the comments. Let them watch on their own.
You saying that we the only video?
They watching the video right now.
They're watching the video right now. Can you see the video now?
Yep.
Yes.
So yeah. How long ago was that? 1988. Doc made me find it.
And it's very interesting how the division of both sides of color, they're speaking down on the other one. They're both beautiful women, but they find something to speak down on the other one about, and that's how the division starts. And that's the division.
But we also have the division. I gotta be delicate. We also have the division in professional settings or in social communities, social groups, affiliations, and so forth like that. That in history, it might be said that you had to do the paper bag test when it comes to like dating, or if you were qualified to be in any of these social situations. So there's other things that we do in our culture that continues to perpetuate this division, and that they tend to have value around this division.
So are we doing it, or is it how things are set up? It's kind of making it, right? We're fitting into the model that's already made, right? So like I said, through colonization, there's things that are already here, right? So especially the darker you are, the least capable you look at, right? You look at least capable as the darker you are. Like as you get lighter, then you get more acceptable, and you get past, and you got passing, right? Because to them, they're like, well, they're not that dark, they got a tan, they can pass, right? So it's really here. If we're talking about America, it's a lot of the colorism is based off of the colonization, and how even after it, we still try to be more like our colonizer than getting our own identities.
But I can't respond without calling certain things out. So that's why I'm hesitating to
Don't hesitate, girl. Call it out.
No. No, Daryl, you ain't getting me.
I mean, it might be a very educational point. Like, hey, educate the people.
I mean, like just some of the social affiliations that we have. Some of the social affiliations that we have, tend to just be based on like not necessarily financial status, although sometimes that's it, but it's also what it is that you represent. And then even if I was to switch that from the social situations to the workplace, when you're trying to elevate into senior leadership, you have to say they're asking themselves, do they match the costume of how we want this leadership team to look like? And I say costume, that's my word. Do they meet the mold, or are they going to make us look bad because of their hair or their tone of voice or their accent or any of those things that are natural to who we are in this world?
So is that us, or is that still the system?
But that would mean we sign up for the system because we invest and pay membership to these organizations. We collect baskets and give out turkeys to these, to the less privileged. Yeah, that's what we would say. So it's like so many different ways in which it shows up.
And back
And how
to
many
the
book
point
bags and turkeys do we need?
Well, again,
and back to my point, why don't we stop it?
well, first of
Why
all,
do we
well,
And that's what somebody else said. What's the alternative?
well, this is
Right.
much different. So we're talking about a much deeper conversation now because when you say we, who is we? Because there's no we when it comes to us, right? We're all individuals. We're all fighting to get our own space, purpose, and place in this great place called America right now. So there is no we. There's no collective movement. Every movement gets started can get derailed because they're going to buy the leader out or kill him, right? So there's no we right now. So there's a whole bunch of disfranchised people. A couple of us make it, right? And once we make it, most of them don't look back, or they may throw some money back, but they're really not doing any real pulling up because they don't have any real powers to do it. Because we're not together. We don't stand together. We all don't. There's no collective when it comes to what we called we. We just share a skin color, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. That's all I got. Is facts.
Yes. Yeah.
But so it's like the bias is real. So going back to Doc's question, like, what do we do about it? And somebody else said, so what's the alternative? Like, what could be make it that we're not speaking French we and we're speaking a common language of we, that we come together without the differences, because everybody can contribute to the puzzle differently.
Well, I think some things have changed a little bit as far as I see a lot more people feeling more comfortable being, we'll say, natural or being, this movement of being themselves more, which is good. Which means we're getting a little self awareness. So I think we just have to continue to educate ourselves.
Okay. Okay, let me take that down. Go ahead.
I'm gonna take issue with that, Daryl.
Okay. Talk about it.
Okay.
Because come on, let's make it happen.
I think I have plenty of self-awareness, but I choose to have my hair relaxed. So doesn't mean that I'm not aware of my blackness.
Right. So
this is just my preference.
I said, and like people are, and so they are getting more natural and they're learning more about themselves. I think it's just, people just educating themselves more. So so for me, I don't care how you wear your hair, relax, whatever. As long as you're doing it because you want to do it, it's fine. If you're doing it because the image you have in your face, in your head is something that's not you, then that becomes a problem. If I'm doing it because I want to look like blonde hair, blue eyed Becky, I have an issue with that. If I have to do it because I think I'll fit in better because I have this straight hair, I take issue with that. But if you're doing it because you feel like I just want to look this way, fine, right? I think that however, whatever you're doing, as long as you're doing it for yourself and not chasing an image of something outside of you, then it's okay. Yeah. Then it's okay.
Yeah.
Because
even people who go natural sometimes do it for the image that they're trying to project. You know?
Right.
I want to show that I'm black enough.
Right. I don't like that. Nor do I like people who, if you come down, oh, she's wearing a weave, she shouldn't wear a weave. No, I don't think. I think that's fine, right? I think however we want to present ourselves is fine as long as we're doing it for us and about us, right? And I think we need to stop knocking each other for everything. Oh, you got a weave, you ain't really black. Well, what does that really mean? Stop, okay? It doesn't mean that. It just means that they want to wear. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You want to wear whatever you do, as long as you're doing it for you, to make you feel better. You're not chasing something else. That is not you. I don't think it should be an issue. Honestly, me.
And I
think that's how to stop the division. Right. If everybody thinks that way, if this is what you want to do, fine.
Right.
No skin off my nose.
No. Unless you lose your nose like Michael Jackson chasing a dream that doesn't exist. Then we have a problem, okay?
Did he say like Michael Jackson?
Yes, he did.
But I think it's a narrative, and it seems like I'm always othered a lot in a lot of different situations. And it's not about me, but it's just a way that this conversation can be othered. Is I was not open really to like natural hairstyles. Like that wasn't my choice. how I got here was to protect my hair. Because as I commented earlier, my hair is nice and long, just like Doc's. But because I had
What
three
you mean,
different,
nice and long? Nice
okay.
and long. See what we're using? We're doing it
Yeah,
right there inadvertently.
I just
I
fell
mean,
all right on into it. I just
short,
fell right on into it.
Yep.
short is a problem. You know what I mean? Short is
Well,
disgusting.
short is a problem for some people, but it's not a
Right.
defining characteristic for me per se.
Right, and it shouldn't be. We don't care if your hair long or short. Go ahead. I just want to
That's
put
Yeah,
that
it
out.
didn't matter. And so like I was working out and I was dancing like a lot, like doing a lot of urban R&B line dancing, jumping up in the air, doing aerobics or whatever. And then I have different spots where I might show up on NBC 10 and TMZ or whatever. And to get my appearance to match, at that time I was concerned about the costume. I was putting too much heat on my hair. So the conversation changed with my hair care professional who, had sustained my hair. She said, your healthiness of your hair is going to change if you continue to put this much heat on it in between. And so then that's when I gradually grew into, okay, what is this protective hairstyle stuff? It was to protect my crown. And then I had concerns on this side of protecting my crown. Was the network still going to work with me? Well, I was just on the network this week, so I guess they still working with me. So but it was like still that question, because as we're saying out here in the world, how do we change the conversation that is acceptable? And I know I've talked to other colleagues too. One colleague went all the way natural and got like a texturized style because she couldn't get into the hairdresser fast enough before her news networks that she's connected with that she goes on. So, now I don't care, but I'm just saying that there's that other thing, that the embeddedness of the narrative of how, even like I just did it and didn't even realize it, like my hair is nice and long, like Doc, some of that stuff is embedded in how we value and believe. So it's like it would have to be, I guess, like we have Black Lives Matter, only we will be more efficient than them. It would have to be a charge of individuals that come together in a collaborative to put force behind like this roots of colorism, or this the foundation of it, to kind of turn down the noise and re-educate it in a different way so that there's acceptance. Just like they say they want play dolls. I know that's one of my Midwest words that I mess up all the time, but like you say it for me, Camp. See, because you laughing at me.
No,
You'll just let me go. So the dolls, like, they want representation of all cultures so that little girls can see, or boys can see themselves in how they play, versus seeing this other image that doesn't represent them. Like, it's just coming across in so many different ways. I know my Midwestern tongue came out. I'm sorry. So
I agree with Daryl though. Is if it's the motive.
So you don't agree with me?
No, I agree with you too. It's the motive behind it, So if you're doing it for you, then who cares? You're doing it for you. I've been everything: short, long, straight, not straight, braids. Only thing I haven't done is weaves. No, that's not true. I got to weave one time to see how I would look with a specific short style.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I got to weave and let them cut it up.
We're gonna be Erykah Badu. We're gonna test this out.
Yes.
I'm an artist, and I'm sensitive about my crown.
That's right.
Yeah,
but
so
we have to, we are not a collective.
Right.
So it's about individuals making the corrections every single time. Because we have a tendency, just people in general as human beings, we have a tendency to get tired of a certain conversation. We get tired of correcting people, and then stuff starts slipping by.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the only way to correct the behavior is consistency.
Who? Say that again. That's a word.
Classism within Black or African American family.
Mhm. So it's about making that correction every single time.
And being consistent and authentic. Like, you know, doing both and not, oh, I could do this one side, but I can't do the other. Like, take the but out. That cancels it. Say and also.
Mhm.
And also we can do this. So we wanted to touch on, I guess, and I heard Camp's initial reaction about classism with Black and African American families, which we've touched on a little bit so far in this conversation. But is there anything else that we would add? Because there is a difference. I think we kind of really just talked about it though. Like we have to get one language or start at home and empowering the voices of our culture. And doing it beyond the 28 days is given to us because we live this life 365, 24/7.
And just the whole idea of better than, we got to get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get rid of that. We are all worthy, no matter what your skin tone is, no matter what your hair texture is. We are all worthy. But this whole better than, you know, we know where it started, and it was intentional. But at this point, we have a choice, you know, to stop it. And oftentimes we don't make that choice. We make the other choice of letting it continue.
Because Master said he gonna give us a raise. Master gonna give us a basket of food. Master gonna help us. We gonna not be redlined out of certain communities to buy a house. We're not gonna have the identification of our social security numbers being even, so they automatically know that we're melanated. So then therefore we're treated differently. Like, it's so many identifiers that they have created in this system that we live in that would make breaking the system uniquely challenging. And we usually only have a microwave minute of attention. Like, we need, as soon as that microwave go off, after 3 minutes, pop that popcorn. Like, it need to be resolved. And it really takes rolling up the sleeves with somebody, like sticking to it and being consistent and authentic.
And a lot of times we need to be doing that with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, but we don't.
I mean, just like Daryl caught me saying it. Like, that's what we need to do. And I need to be responsive. I mean, that needs to trickle across everything. Like, you know, accepting the correction is not, we ain't got to go out in the street and fight. I don't need to be angry and, you know, come meet you in the middle of Broad and Erie or whatever other popular, popular corner here in Philadelphia. Like we don't have to go that far. Like we can really just say, okay, we're not going to continue to have the enslaved mindset.
Lost them again.
Yes. No, we're not going to have the enslaved mindset. I don't even know if you still want to even talk about this red bone thing. Yeah.
Oh, the red. Oh.
We thought we had lost you.
But you know, I guess just a quick word about it, in that for a long time it influenced dating.
It definitely.
It did. It does.
It influenced dating. So
it still
just,
does.
you know.
You said it still does?
Yeah.
Yep.
Talk about it, Daryl. How does it still impact dating?
Well, I mean, you still see red bone or white. I mean, whatever one they can get, they feel better. Because if you get to a certain level, it feels like you have to have something pale face on your arm, right? It just seems like that's what happens when you transition from on the block to you making money. When you make money to be official, you have to have the red bone or white. Like red bone is actually lower lower class than the white. It's under the it's upper class for us, but for white it's underneath, right? So it's levels to these things. That still influences a lot of people when it comes to especially with money or status sometimes. You know, you want that high yellow, light skin, light eyes thing, or the white girl.
I was talking to someone who tried to convince me that that's not the case, and that the reason it happens is because as you move up the rooms you are in, there are less of us. So you start associating more with that hue.
So I mean, that's what some people say, right? But that means so you get the place where there's no black people. That's what you're saying? Ain't no black people there.
Like there's no black people up there. Well, that was my argument. Like you just get so high, you don't see black people anymore. Like
you don't go to Target no more. You don't shop no more. Like these other, like I understand maybe these parties may be all white parties, like they had white chicks. But outside of that, it's still living in the real world where you still can bump into people outside of those rooms. Those rooms are for a second of your day. The rest of your day is spent in the real world where you're at, you're at Walmart, and Target, or even at some of these stores that you may see someone. So I believe it's more of a status thing, because I don't know if your palate changes that quickly for being in the rooms that short amount of time.
Okay, so some stories that I've heard have been that when you are at those social events, the people who have access to those rooms. Oh, okay, Daryl. Sorry, that was distracted. That's okay.
I was at the party.
Yeah, you was at the party. Okay, that is an influx of people who don't look like the melanated people. And yes, as we've just pointed out, you could be at Target or a grocery store or go somewhere outside of that circle, but they said it's like an infusion, like all of these, that the women that are around them just don't look like us. And so they end up developing an affinity because, I mean, if we look at the Tiger Woods story, it was a lot of women that was put around him for different reasons, and that was manipulated, by his other concerns. But then like you always have you always have different things that people are experiencing and what they have access to. And so,
and I say, as I was saying to this person, you still have a choice.
You do. But is it going to so I wonder too, like, is it contracts? Like, is it written in your contract? Because I heard something recently, and I'm not trying to drop all these names tonight, but like I heard somewhere recently that the Kanye Kardashian connection was a setup in a contract, and then they happened to start liking each other after having this meetup in a contract. So I wonder if that like is real in a lot of these other situations too, that almost like they have the show Bachelor. We look at it as entertainment, but is it set up like that for them, that these are the women that you could pick because we have an event coming up and you need a date, or like how is that platter put in front of them?
To be honest, I think sometimes you don't even have to work corporate, or in a high level of certain thing. I just think it starts from youth where it's like that's presented. I just think about a trophy wife. So I have a lot of I'll just say family members who are of men who are of a darker hue, and they have married. Like I have a lot of aunts and cousins who are either white or we say high yellow down here. Okay. Red bone, we say high yellow. And that's what they were taught by, not specifically their fathers, but their mothers. Like it was, even me growing up, I heard, don't bring nobody in here that's darker than you. But you darker than me. By my parents, but you're darker than me. Like, I can't date anybody darker than me, but you're darker than me. I just happen to be a hue lighter than you, that's crazy. So I think it really starts with that mindset. And so I even end up dating people that were like, I either side my race, Puerto Rican, Mexican, or who were light skinned, just to like appease the family for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that it just, again, I think about trophy wife because a lot of times who you have on your arm, you do climb. I've seen it. You climb the ladder a little quicker.
Mm-hmm. Which is really sad because
It is.
that
No, it's
means
sad.
that we don't have. You saying that love is not necessarily love. Love is like that's where I think it comes into it being a contract or an arrangement. I mean, there are some cultures that do the whole
That do
arrangement
that.
situation, but I like it just makes it more that it is not really for the purpose that we may believe it is based on our value system that we have been raised by, but that we kind of gave that description of it. But it's really like, okay, once you get to a certain level, this is what you expect, or this is written in your contract or behavior that you're supposed to exhibit.
Well, like perfect example, like the Colin Kaepernick, his documentary, or like his show on Netflix about how he grew up. You know, he was adopted by white parents. He's half black, half white, whatever. But when he went to Homecoming, he was in his series. It was a black girl, and his white adopted mother. They didn't hang up the picture up. They were like pressuring him, "Are you going to Homecoming?" But when it came to prom, he still wanted to go with the other girl, but they had busy schedules, started dating other people. He went with his mom's best friend's daughter, who was Lily White, of course. And it was like, oh, that looks nice. And they hung the picture up on the mantle. And just that, it was just so many examples in the series he has on Netflix about his life just growing up. And I was just like, perfect example. So it was brought up is because his date for Homecoming was dark, but his white adoptive parents didn't understand some of the lingo when he was on the phone with his friends. It was like, is this what they mean by dark of the berry? You know, they have dark of the berry, sweet of the juice, and just other things that we say that they didn't understand. And it was like their way of saying it was like gold is really her color because they wore gold and black. Gold is her color. This is very nice. But it wasn't the same input as when he went to prom with the white girl. So yeah.
You just made me think of one of the biases that people say, you look nice in that color.
Oh, yellow is your color.
Yellow is your
skin tone.
Right. Like, what does that mean? Like, that is definitely implied direct bias.
I don't want to say big, but yeah.
I mean, we can kind of take it. It depends on the context. Okay.
Right.
Daryl always brings us back to the right frame. It depends on the context. It could be a compliment, but depending on the context in which it's said, yes, it could definitely be taken as a microaggression at work. It could be taken as a bias of some sort. And instead of them saying that you're beautiful, you're beautiful for a dark person, or you this for like it's always something that they try to make less than. Doc, you get that face like you heard that. Like,
girl, I had a penny for every single time.
You'd be a millionaire by now, right?
Yes. Yes. For sure. That's an insult.
It is an insult.
It's an insult. That is not a compliment.
Or the babies. Like, if people see babies, they say, oh, the babies are so cute in that outfit. They not cute. They not just cute. It's the outfit that's cute. So you gotta, just be. You have to be mindful of how some of those sly comments come up. And that it's an ism that's like attached to it in some way, shape, or form that is showing just showing some level of difference that's not serving us well. And so one of the nursery rhymes that I had came across well, I think it's a nursery rhyme. It says, "How does colorism play out in America?" An old children's rhyme captures the definition of colorism and its inner workings. Is that if you black, stay black. If you brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're white, you're all right.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
definitely like puts people at a disadvantage in some particular sort, like disadvantage with darker skin while privileging those with light skin.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And like the article that I'm like referencing, I could put that into the like up on the screen. I guess I should put it in the comments though. But it's like the article is called "The Roots of Colorism, Skin Tone Discrimination. The Bias is Born in the Practice of Human Enslavement." Which we've said already.
Yeah.
So it's like it seems like the hardest part about it would be, how do we engineer making something different? Like, creating change in the conversation.
Hmm.
And I think because there's no Black History every day.
Mm-hmm.
We get the once a month. I think that we do have to take it on individually
Mm.
every single time.
And not back down,
And
not
not back down.
mm-hmm.
I had someone, a, a, a person say to me about someone they were considering dating.
Oh.
I would, but he's too dark.
Mm.
And I was like, what? And because this person is someone I could really talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't politically correct as I would, I would still have the conversation with
Mm-hmm.
someone who says that in my presence, but I wasn't really nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is some bullshit. Like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you?
I mean, a lot of people say that, and I always grew up, my family telling me, "Oh, it's just your preference." I know I don't agree. I
don't have a problem at all with people having their preference. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna say that to me, I want to know what is this a preference thing, or is this about some mess because of your discomfort with who you are?
Mm-hmm.
And it was some mess about discomfort with who they are. Because there was no real explanation
Mm-hmm.
about this being my preference because of XYZ. It wasn't about preference.
Mm-hmm.
It was about what you think is a good standard.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear the beginning of it. So, but could it be still preference? Because once you learn something to be, that becomes your preference. You prefer that light skin or that red bone or that white girl. That's your new preference because of what's taught, what is ingrained in you, what you see around you, what you see people being successful. So that becomes your new preference. That's what you prefer now. Now, anything other than that is other. So that is your preference at that point. However you got there, that's still your preference.
Yes.
We definitely need to unlearn it.
Yes. Yes.
But I think the other part is like, do we believe the Black is beautiful across the board?
Again, who is we?
Yep.
We got to define this we.
Here you
Y'all
go,
keep saying
Daryl.
this we,
Here you
and
go.
it's really us. Some
Right.
of us.
Some of us.
Us
Yeah.
four or
Right.
five,
Five, right.
5, 6 people in here.
And like I said, if we look at our own journeys, like for me, it took me a while to get okay with the color I am, because I was
Mhm.
looked at as, not attractive black is ugly. Look at him, dark skin. I wasn't when I grew up. Everybody light skin. I'll be sure we had all them light skinned people. They were so I think
I'll be sure.
we had the light is right. So it took a while to come to find myself beautiful. So I know people still are struggling with that. Whether they say it or not. A lot of us are still struggling with our colors, feeling less than because we're not, if we're dark or whatever the case may be. It's tough. So we do have to learn a lot of these bad habits that we adopted through colonization, through the way we got here, through the way we learned, to what we find beautiful. But I do see a lot more, and I notice it every time. I see a lot more dark-skinned people on shows, like the new Will Smith show, The Fresh Prince. Most of them are darker skinned, which is dope, right? Because their representation does matter. So I do see a lot more dark-skinned people getting roles, which is definitely dope.
But then we're still celebrating the first dark person for this or the first dark person for that.
It's so ridiculous, but it's true. That's true.
Like, when are we gonna stop saying this is the first? Like, let's just celebrate that they're there. Like, they got the qualifications. Why does it have to be the first melanated person X?
Because I think that representation matters, so we have to make these things important. So we see that if it's still the first right now, that's the problem. Yeah, we're still saying the first in 2020.
Very true.
Right. That's really the problem. The problem is not saying it's the first. The problem is that it is the first in 2022. So it should be celebrated that it took all this time for someone to get this or get that or whatever the case may be. We need to recognize it. It's because it's not a small feat. They had to go through hell to get. What we're saying is you had to go through hell to get that. And hell and years.
And then some. Right.
That, right.
Because they don't ask nobody else's LSAT scores.
No. Right. No. And yeah, that's crazy. That's real, but that's what other stuff too, with the questioning of that's the way you look at a black woman. Period. That's more of attack. That's an attack on the black woman, straight up and down.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Right. The most unprotected person in the world is a black woman. That's what somebody famous said. Somebody.
Right.
But it's like the roots are thick. Like this is like so embedded in into everything. And yes, it is a shame. 2022, we still celebrating first. Like we should have did some of this stuff a long time ago, but because of isolation and pushing us out, really weren't able to do that. So it's like how could we break that systematic is it racism? Systematic thought process, systematic value system.
I think it's all that. And we just got to keep fighting, keep pushing, like we're doing.
Beyond that microwave minute.
Right.
Yeah, we gotta stick to it in the midnight hour.
Right.
Yes.
And even when, and in those cases, it becomes very uncomfortable. That when you're going against the grain, it's a lot that tends to happen. Like I just think about, and I guess I think about this a lot, but when I was, I guess, going against the grain because I was educating people on stuff, like people threaten your lives for the smallest little thing. And it's like, they don't threaten my life for educating the people. Like, I don't understand. But people are very territorial over keeping the system working.
Right.
Yeah, and if you educate people, you throw a wrench in the system.
It's a whole bunch of loaves of bread in every grocery store aisle. A whole bunch. Which means they have a whole bunch of choices, whole bunch of decisions, whole bunch of options. Why can they only get Sara Lee honey wheat? Like, why?
Because Sara Lee is the right complexion. She got the right hair.
And her bread is good.
Yes.
It got that little sweet taste to it.
I just think it also starts with knowing the difference between racism, prejudice, biases, classism. I think sometimes people get things confused. And
Definitely.
so when I guess from what I understood as far as racism and just prejudice, we can't be racist against our own, but we can be prejudiced against our own. So
Make that make sense.
no, so it was just like
He said
I know,
no.
say it didn't make sense.
She's like, no, I ain't doing it.
no, I'm just saying. So my whole thing is to start the conversation of education. I just think it needs to be. I mean, we're not in one system. We talked about different systems of how we view things, classism, colorism, all of this, but how that looks. Start from the beginning of what I'm saying. Just the point is, what is really what? What is colorism? What
So
is racism?
I think as far as racism, from my understanding, you have to have some type of power for it to
Oh,
be so.
definitely.
That's what
Yeah.
people say, right? So they say technically we can't be racist, we have no power. Right? You have to be able to change someone's life or something like that. That's in the definition of it. If you look at the textbook definition, it states something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, that's just the definition. Sure. Sure.
Well, we know which weekend it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so like the dismantling of that, I think that we also always look for someone to take the lead, as opposed to knowing that we can take the lead from our individual spaces of genius that we exist in, and hopefully it will just like, spread over. I don't want to say bleed, but like it will just like spread over, across whatever the boundaries are. And as it keeps continuing to blend in another, I guess, perceived boundary that we can't, a space we're not supposed to talk about it or be about it, that hopefully it's an educational tool that now someone knows that, okay, I may have had a bias, and it's okay that I had that bias, but let me do something different. Let me respect those who are working around me that are represented within this bias that I didn't even realize I had.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation too the other day with someone who is in a gay relationship, and the power dynamic of gender was existent there. Like they only spoke to one partner versus the other, and they didn't ask, like, was it one partner we should speak to, or is it one person that makes all of the decisions? They were there from a shared decision making a major purchase. And so, but even when the person who they kept targeting everything to left the room, they didn't say anything to the person who was remaining in the room and waited until that person came back to address the further questions. And they were buying a house. So
What was the difference between the two?
Nothing. Like, it wasn't any. I mean, yeah, it was not like the way it was described to me. Like, it was nothing that would gender identify, I guess, like roles or passiveness or leadership or whatever. Like, they equally were making this decision because they were purchasing a home. But clearly the others in the room didn't feel that one had a voice in the other. So it was like they just dismissed his whole presence being there.
Interesting. And I was, when I asked that, I was wondering if it was a mixed race couple or.
Yeah, nope.
Huh.
Nope. Yeah, and I didn't even think of that when I was responding. Like, no, it wasn't a mixed race. It was two Caucasian men.
Interesting.
Definitely. So, do we have any questions from the audience? Like those of you who have hung in there with us throughout this conversation, like, how is colorism, impacting and touching your lives? Like, what things can we possibly, I guess, talk about, peel back for you in the, we have a couple minutes left before we wind down. But like, what are some things and thoughts on how colorism has impacted your relationships? Like, we'd love to to hear and try to support that as we move forward. Does anybody have anything else? Like it was a couple other, I guess, banners that we had, but I think we've touched on those because we talked to we didn't talk about it specifically, but Black Lives Mattering. We did ageism, like when does it get old? That you do have a choice. This one right here. Good hair versus bad hair, light skin versus dark skin. We had the video from the back in the day school days. What's missing? Like what else? How can we support the conversation further? Or what's our closing comments? If we don't get any questions coming in. Daryl, as a Black man, that is how you identify, right? You got asked these days in 2022.
Right? You gotta be sure.
You gotta be sure. Because you on your quiet tip today. You're not on your I don't know, your other version of you that comes out sometimes. What how would you say that this sits? Like we've talked a lot about Black women. How does it sit for Black men? Like colorism, dealing with it in relationships and so forth.
So I think it's more the perception of what we feel is beautiful. So sometimes your friends will have that light skin is still beautiful, or that white girl is beautiful, light eyes, long hair, straight hair is better. So sometimes you get run into those and we get conversations like, well, she's all right, but she ain't all that. Like, nah, she bad, bro. She's light skin. Huh? That's all it took? She's light skin? That's a qualification. So I see it that way. I think that, and I think things have kind of switched. I think being dark skinned now is kind of cool. Women like the darker man. So I'm in high demand right now.
You in high demand?
Good time. Colorism for 4 year against you. Right now it's for 4.
Okay.
That's so funny because, and Mary, you said it, that you're pretty to be dark skinned, but no one says you're ugly to be light skinned.
And some people are not appealing to the eye just because they have light skin.
Right.
Crow's feet. Sorry.
But but it goes to the narrative that it doesn't matter if you're light skinned, you could look like anything.
Whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. We said we was going to talk about that when it came up last week about using the word sorry or excuse me. Yeah, that's a whole. We got you though. But yes. Facebook user. That was probably net. I don't know. I be trying to guess based off of what they said, like who the Facebook user is. But Doc, I'm sorry, you were speaking.
I just said it just played into that whole narrative that it doesn't matter what you look like if you're light.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You were a trophy just because.
Light, bright, and always right.
Yeah, right.
That's what they would say.
Right.
Definitely.
If you shop for kids, for kids, then you definitely get something light with long hair. The kids look good.
That's a whole nother thing. People picking their
adopted children
partners based on that.
What they think the kids are going to look like. Absolutely.
Yes.
People have sued people too, not knowing that their partner has had constructive surgery. And when the child comes, they're like, okay, why does this child look like this? And they never had that conversation. Definitely.
I didn't look like this.
Well, you put yourself on mute at the end of what you
said.
Oh,
sorry. I didn't look like this beforehand, basically.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's wild.
And I've heard, not so much now, but in the past, darker skinned people seeking out lighter people so that their children aren't dark.
Mhm.
And they can still come out dark, trust me.
And you really have no control over.
Not at all.
you
None
don't.
whatsoever. None
No, you do
whatsoever. You
not.
have no idea how those genes are going to play out.
Exactly.
Don't, but you have an idea of if they're a little lighter, you can kind of figure hopefully they'll be in the middle.
Like, I don't want my child to have no peasy hair, so I can't date nobody with peasy hair.
Woo.
First
Right.
of all, that statement alone is colorism. Like, what is
Yes.
peasy hair?
Right.
Well, I'm gonna go a step further. It's more self-hatred, right? Because you don't want something that looks like you, so you really hate yourself.
Right.
To be honest, you can't like yourself, saying I don't want my child to reflect me or my characteristics. You know.
So does little Kim hate herself?
Absolutely.
She said she did.
At one point.
She said she did at one point. She
She
said
hated
she did.
herself. She hated
She
herself
did
so
not-
much she turned
she-
herself into a
yes.
monster.
She was
That's
a
a
beautiful
gorgeous.
young woman.
Yes, she was.
She was gorgeous.
Yes, she was.
The way she was.
I don't know who this is now.
Now she's the alien.
And that's a really a sad story. It's really sad that you feel like you have to become a whole new person.
Right.
Well, that's just like people using.
But that's just like Daryl.
lightening creams.
Who?
That's like people using skin lightening creams
Oh yeah.
overseas because
Overseas,
Right
in the
here.
United States.
Right
well, here in the
here.
United States too. But I'm just saying
Here.
all over.
Yeah, they are people again. Light is right.
And Daryl mentioned the other artist earlier in the conversation. He mentioned the nose falling off. You know what?
Really?
Michael Jackson? Oh my goodness. And then we don't know if it was a genetic disorder. Yeah, we don't know if it was a genetic disorder or not. And yes, there are.
What genetic disorder makes your nose fall off? I'm gonna go on a limb and say none. I'll say none.
I think about Sammy Sosa.
You think about who?
Sammy Sosa.
Sosa.
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like you look at pictures from 10 years ago, or just like 5 years ago, and now you're like, whoa.
Wow. That's a lot. So it's like loving yourself, not hating yourself, being authentic in your space, and just knowing that your beauty is unapologetically you. And that you have to, as I'm gonna go back and say, I wasn't intending to make a comment that wasn't of what this conversation was, but like it's kind of embedded in some things that you said. And I said my hair is nice and long, like that. Like,
right.
That's a what's it say?
Subliminal
Unconscious
messages.
Subliminal message. Like you don't even think about how much is impacting your voice or the things that you're saying. So I was unintentionally trying to say that, but
and that's where that people still today use the term good hair.
Right.
So if that person has good hair, what the heck is on your head?
You trying to strive to get a cultural dynamic that ain't yours, that ain't in your genealogy.
Right.
I don't care what kind of texturizer or whatever you put in there. Like when that process grows out, it's gonna grow out. It's gonna grow out.
Your word choice tonight is funny.
Listen, I'm sorry, and my Midwestern tongue coming out too.
And we have to correct our children around that stuff too. If your child saying, "Oh yeah, I want hair, good hair," no, their hair is straight.
Right.
With a chemical.
All hair is good hair.
All hair is good. If it's coming out of your scalp, it's good.
Right.
It could be woolen, because some of the people who have woolen hair don't look like us, but they have woolen hair.
Right.
Some of them pictures that's hanging up in our living rooms, that person has woolen hair, not permed hair. yeah, it's just so many different ways in which we try to whitewash who it is that we are, and it's been embedded in our culture. So hopefully this strong millennial nation that we have, as they try to change the script of everything happening, that we're able to kind of see. I don't know who you waving at, so I'm like, okay, let me wave back.
You said millennial. I'm still a millennial.
You like that's me.
Yes, it is. Okay.
The millennial, they're pushing the needle in so many different ways, and it's like they're unapologetically around the spaces that they are kind of breaking the dynamics of the system, and maybe they will break those systematic handcuffs and chains that we experience.
Yeah, but some of the stuff that have been embedded, we have to make sure that we are conscious ourselves.
Right.
We have to make sure we're conscious when we're talking to them, and make sure we're not imparting that same stuff.
It's definitely okay to say that your hair coming from your crown is a good texture of hair. Like it doesn't.
Good hair.
Relaxed hair needed, it didn't need anything, but people felt that it did, so their belief of their hair made it not good hair. It's all good hair.
Yes, relaxed hair.
I'm gonna take issue with you, Mary.
I'm gonna say relaxed hair is good hair too.
I said all hair is good hair, no matter if they choosing to perm it or not. Like it's all good hair.
I got you.
She said, "Thank you, Gerald." Oh my gosh, she about to throw a stiletto in my neck.
All of y'all out tonight.
Well, it's all good.
Listen, if I had to choose today in my next hair appointment, I don't have a problem going back to creamy crack. But I know that I want to work out. I want to still be professional, whatever that looks like, and I don't want to damage my crown. I want my crown to still stay healthy.
Well, my hair is healthy.
Yes.
Yes.
We ain't gotta defend it.
I can't say long. Then.
Is that Erica?
Huh?
Is that Erica? I thought I heard Erica's voice. No,
I was saying that, so I can't say long.
Yeah, apparently we can't say long either. Can't like saying
long. My hair is almost down to my butt at this point.
Right, that's why
where mine is.
To the right.
Yeah,
that's where mine is.
Why can't we say long?
You said we couldn't say long, so we trying to assimilate to what you told us.
Excuse me. No, you said nice and long. You have to be long, but you attributed nice to being long.
Oh,
so short meaning
that's
what?
Okay.
What does short mean?
Short
Are you gonna say nice?
Short and sassy.
Nice and short?
I can just say my hair is nice and long.
Short and sassy.
Healthy and long.
Yeah, I mean, can you say
nice and short? Nice and short.
Okay. I mean, however you want to go with it. You can say your hair is long. I like my hair is long. Okay, that's cool. Your hair is long.
But within our own culture, when we do the division situation, the division comes from: is your hair long? Do you have the capability of growing long hair, or you only have the capability of having short hair?
Right.
So that's one of them division divisive type situations.
And the question should be: is your hair healthy? That's what it should.
That's what it should be.
That's it. Yes, that's it.
That's the only question. How you choose to rock it is up to
whatever
you.
length. Yeah, whatever length. If you got short hair, it can be very unhealthy. If you got long hair, that's very unhealthy. Split ends, they got split ends. They got split ends.
That's not healthy.
Split ends.
Split ends not healthy. That means you might need a haircut and to allow it to grow into whatever is going to make it healthy.
Right.
And the haircut may have to be drastic if you allow those split ends to last long.
Right.
Yes, well, that's one of them words like 4C, the shaft of your hair.
And I have to say, another one of those words is dead hair. One of those phrases is dead hair. It's all dead when it comes out of your scalp.
Right.
Okay.
I gotta cut the dead hair off. That's just an excuse to chop your hair off.
Okay.
And why does it have to be death?
If it wasn't dead, you'd feel it when it gets cut.
Oh, talk about it, Doc.
She said there was some emphasis, like the stiletto was thrown through.
Because I remember an experience where I went to a shop and the woman said, "We have to cut off all the dead hair, so we're gonna cut off about 2 inches." I was like, the hell you are?
Why? You had a problem with cutting hair? You need to be a certain length?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Gotcha.
I
And then
had grown it.
sometimes-
I grew it out, and I liked it at that length.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, because like when we first started, I was telling Mary, I've been short, like shaved, and all that. But at that point, I wanted my hair long. I had grown it
Right.
out,
Right.
and wanted it
Right.
long.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
remember the shave hairstyles and back in the day. Good.
Mhm.
And they're coming back with people doing the one side
Yeah.
shave
And
because it grows back.
Yes, it grows back.
It grows back. But we have people are so attached to their crown that they like, oh my God, if I cut it, what am I gonna look like? I'm gonna look weird. No, you're gonna look how you look.
Like
Like you. You know, look like
Yeah,
you.
that's what I think. Like you.
Uh-oh, Daryl getting text messages. Okay. So what recommendations, I guess, or thoughts, closing thoughts that we have? I mean, Kent, when you mentioned, I don't have one of the words that you said, prejudice, bias, and racism, you said something else. I feel like that's a whole nother conversation as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the differences like between them.
Mhm.
And then we definitely are going to grab that topic one. We have a schedule of stuff coming up, but that topic of the sorry and excuse me from women,
Yes.
like that is
Yes.
definitely coming up.
Look at Daryl shaking his head.
I was just saying my closing thought was my solution to the whole hair, good, bad, and different, all that good stuff, was one day I bought a wig that was burgundy and black, and I wore it to work, and people didn't know who I was, and they thought I was a new person, and I was just doing my day. I did it on purpose, and I had locks, and I did it on purpose just to, because people's like, "Oh, your hair's natural. You have locks. Why does it look like that?" So I wore a wig, a straight wig with the curls and everything, but burgundy and black, just to show how that doesn't matter. As long as I get my work done, as long as I'm presentable and looking the way I need to look for work and going about my business. So I think that taught people, like, you can't judge a book by its cover just because of their hair, and just have assumptions. That changed the game when I wore that wig to work. Don't be like me.
You done said a lot of stuff though in the recent weeks. People were like, "Yep, we're gonna leave out the job. We're gonna load the clip." Like you just got a whole bunch of.
That was my way of attacking the issue, and I didn't hear nothing about my hair after that.
But I think people do identify you through your hair. Like when you go to describe somebody, we usually start with skin tone and their hair type.
Oh, I don't, but
some people, not everybody. They be like, yeah, Daryl, that tall, slim, the guy with locks. He wear a hat, the tall, slim guy with locks. We don't say the opinionated, lovable, statistic-driven, dark heartthrob to some people. Like we don't say all of that.
He's liking all those words, Mary.
Huh?
He's liking all those words.
I know. I used to have,
keep it coming.
He's taking it all in. Like, yep, keep going. And so, Doc, did you have closing thoughts, or Daryl?
The only thing I want to say is just repeating what I said before. Just, attacking it on the individual level every time you see it. And not being afraid to talk to the people that we talk to all the time, like our family members and our friends who are using those kinds of words or, saying those kinds of things that are based on someone's color. And I know it gets a little dicey sometimes, and sometimes we just get lazy and be like, I don't even feel like it today.
Right.
But then you know that you might not feel like it tomorrow, and then you might not feel like it the next day, and there now your consistency is out the window.
Or you don't want to be typecasted. That when you come into the room, here come the
Yes.
I'm gonna just say this for like a lack of description, but here come the colorism lady. What you got with us today?
Mm-hmm.
Or just in all the angry black woman who got a problem
Angry
with
black woman.
who got a problem
Oh,
with you
you
just
hear?
touching her hair. All you want to do is touch her hair. She made a big deal about it.
You hear that too? Oh, she's woke.
Right. That's the newest thing.
Right.
Some people need to go back to sleep and rewrite the script. Girl, do you have anything?
No, they pretty much summed it up. You know, just educate yourself, educate the people around you. That's the only way it's going to change.
Okay. Sound like you got a low cold. You got a low cold going on?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, shucks.
And so for
Did you get your free tests from the government?
Oh my God.
I was
We
telling
do
somebody
still have
today.
colds. It is still cold
I was just telling
Those
somebody,
things still available?
you still have regular colds. You know, it doesn't have to be that one all the time. It ain't always
Right,
guaranteed. It
right.
can be a regular cold.
Yes, yes, it could.
It looked like maybe Net is sending you some hugs.
Oh.
Feel better. He said congested,ly he said thank you.
Right.
So next week we have an interesting dynamic of a conversation brought to us by Sunny. We're glad that you're here with us as well. We're here every Friday at 8 o'clock.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining. Please come back.
Yes.
Next week we are talking about how do you have a healthy relationship after coming out of a toxic relationship. I might have flipped the words a little bit, but I believe that's what it is. Like, how can you have a healthy relationship after coming out of a toxic one? Like, what is that healing process altogether? Did you see your love note from Ruth?
Yes, I see. Neil.
And so, as always, we thank you guys for sticking it out with us, catching us live or on the replay. And we'll see you next week with that lovely, juicy topic. We look forward to your feedback. So thanks for rocking it out with us on this Friday Sip and Chat.
Good night. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah, stay safe.